Okay, so we talked about how you can push a ton of guys into the league, not have the results on the field, and it's a pretty heavy indictment of your program. Let's talk about, maybe if we can, maybe there's not one, but a team in the SEC that they might be a little down on their draft performance, but they shouldn't be, because the results on the field would indicate that their coaching staff is getting the absolute most out of the players that they can. Is there a team in the SEC that we can maybe lift the fan spirits with a little bit of love, or does one not exist?
Um, Again, the first one I would say I've already touched on is Georgia. I mean, it's unusual for them to only have one guy drafted and in the fifth round at that, but I think it's just a sign of the fact that the team was genuinely young, and it's a sign that where they were at with Kirby Smart was more an indication of where the talent level was at. And in terms of other examples, I mean, it's hard to say too much, right? Because all the SEC teams, by and large, did well. I mean, only teams with less than four draft picks were Arkansas at three, Georgia at one, Mississippi State at one, and Missouri at one. We all kind of know where Mississippi State's at. They've got some young talent. That quarterback is I don't know that he's truly that special. I know that's a horrible thing for me to say. But I mean, he's not, I don't think Dak Prescott, but I do think he's probably a very good quarterback, and he certainly will be that way when he's done. So I think they're, almost bound to get better. Similarly, Arkansas returning their quarterback's probably going to be a good shape. Losing two pretty good defensive ends is never a great thing in this league, but I think both of those schools, you genuinely can look back and say, well, we didn't really lose all that much. And again, like in Arkansas's case, I don't know that you don't look back at it and go, well, maybe what we thought we were losing wasn't as important to our team, um, as we initially thought. Dan Skipper was this constant talking point at 6'10", 309 as an offensive tackle. It goes undrafted, and a lot of people are super disappointed when stuff like that happens. Or, Drew Morgan goes undrafted, Keon Hetcher goes undrafted, Brooks Ellis, and these are all named players to Arkansas. But I think it's more an indication of the named players you have on your football team were not really NFL prospects,
They're
and
named by
so
default
replace
because somebody
right.
got to catch the passes.
Right. And the flip side to that, though, is it means they're a lot easier to replace than you were initially guessing. And in fact, it's not all that hard for you to end up replacing them with somebody that may end up being a better football player. You hate to say the word overrated because everybody gets really defensive about that in their team and their players, but it's not a bad thing for someone to say the guy that you won't have playing for you anymore was overrated, because that means you didn't lose as much as you thought you did. And I think of anybody, I'm going to narrow it down and say it's probably Arkansas, because they just, they did lose several guys, but only a few of them were honestly kind of marginal NFL players. Even Dedrick Wise, who was considered this high ceiling guy, he only went in the fourth round. So, I mean, I just don't think they really lost that much compared to what a lot of people are going to think.
I was one final point, at least in the immediate on Arkansas. I was surprised with all the tight ends having a premium put on them to see Jeremy Sprinkle go as late as he did. I guess it's because he doesn't fit the new NFL tight end mold of basically a tall wide receiver, and he's more of a true tight end who actually blocks. And I know you have a little bit of a beef with people who like to heap a ton of praise on tight ends who don't block. Maybe talk about that for a minute in terms of what the NFL sees in the tight end position and whether or not Jeremy Sprinkle was undervalued.
So, for I guess those that haven't really tracked the NFL too much, the current trend in the NFL is that quarterbacks are getting very good, and even top shelf receivers in the NFL are having a hard time separating from corners in press man coverage. So, what a lot of teams are starting to do, and it sounds cliche, but there's 32 teams, and the cliche is the rule of thumb in the NFL, is they follow the Gronk model, where if you have a big tight end that can catch the ball out of the backfield, it's a lot easier for that tight end to get separation on a linebacker than it is for your receivers to get separation on a corner. And where everybody has good hands, and when the quarterback can deliver the ball very accurately, if your tight end is consistently open for 8 yards, you'll take that each and every play and march your way down the field. Mainly just, again, because quarterbacks like Drew Brees or Tom Brady are able to deliver the ball accurately and consistently. So a lot of teams in the NFL are valuing tight ends. Now, where I have beef is when the tight ends aren't very effective as inline blockers. It generally defeats the point. Again, we were saying that the problem is receivers can't get separation from the corners. Corners are getting taller and they're getting a lot more athletic. If your tight end can't block in line, that means the defense does not have to respect him as a blocker, which means they can bring in an extra defensive back or use a safety to cover him and not have to worry about the numbers game running the football. The thing that the tight end causes in terms of a numbers issue is the fact that he could be an inline blocker, so you have to keep the linebacker in there for the run game. The moment that threat's gone, it really devalues what the tight end is able to do schematically. So, if you have a tight end and you're splitting him out wide, which, like Evan Ingram is a pretty good example at Ole Miss, that he gets split out wide a lot. If he's constantly split out wide, then he's functionally just a receiver. And if he's just a receiver, then I can put a corner on him, and at that point, it's just a matter of his height. And not only is it just his height, but he's not going to outrun an NFL DB or even an NFL safety by any means. So you're just purely really going off his ability to out-jump the corner to the ball. And considering the athleticism of corners, you don't want to be throwing the ball in their area consistently. That leads to interceptions, which are kind of a terrible thing to have in the NFL. So it's just not a good game plan, and that's, I think, why the best NFL receivers, I say best NFL receiving tight ends, are good inline blockers. It's not that they really need them in the run game to be effective or that it impacts the run game. It's the fact that they can impact the run game makes the defense respect that aspect of them, makes the defense keep linebackers in the field and treat them as a tight end. And if they're treated like a tight end, that's when they can be truly effective.